Здравствуйте, все участники Балканского клуба. Сегодня у нас заседание будет на английском языке из-за нашего дорогого гостя, спикера, профессора Белградского университета, господина Александра Раковича. Начнем, собственно говоря, на английском. We'll divide our meeting on two parts. The first part will be the lecture, and the second part will be devoted to our discussions. So now I will give the floor to Mr. Rakovich.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to give a lecture today to the students of not just MGIMO University but other universities who are present here. First and foremost, I want to apologize for my language, which will be English, because it is always much better between Serbs and Russians to speak, even in the native tongue, Serbian and Russian, and to understand each other, even with some problems, than between us to speak English language. So I apologize, but I will continue in English. The topic of today's lecture is about the people who I belong. It's the Serbian people, the Serbs. I'm a Belgrader from Serbia. And the religious interventionism against the Serbs and the Serbian state and the Yugoslav state during the breakup of Yugoslavia, after the breakup of Yugoslavia, until today. What is religious interventionism, which I'm mentioning now today? It is a political process which is happening on the borders of the Serbian nation, but not just of the borders, even within the center of the Serbian nation. Religious interventionism is intended to shape new identity of the Serbian people on the west and the Serbian people on the east, on the frontiers of our nation, and slowly to go towards the center of the Serbian people and the Serbian nation. You already know that the Serbian people is the biggest people within the Yugoslav space, or post-Yugoslav space. In 1991, there was around 9 million of Serbs on the territory of Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, according to census data. Today, unfortunately, in all republics of the former Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, there are 7,600,000 Serbs. So we are in lack of 1.5 million of our population. That's very heavy loss. Not heavy loss due to the combats during the two wars from 1991 to 1995 and in 1999. Because the losses of the Serbian army and Serbian police and the Serbian population during both wars were around 40,000 people. However, there is a very heavy migration of young educated Serbs and young educated population as you are after they complete their studies, graduate studies, because United States, Canada, Great Britain, Australia, and New Zealand are very easily granting visas to young Serbs and the families, because Serbs are very easily integrate to those societies. They speak good English language, and especially, I have to say, but I'm against any kind of segregation, Western countries of English-speaking population are accepting Serbs also because the Serbs are white. This is one of the main reasons why they accept Serbs, Russians, Poles, and any others, because the Serbs are white and they will integrate and they will replant the population of Western civilization with new people of the white color, so also Christian people. So we are now speaking about the Serbian population, which is just and only 7.5 million in the moment. However, without the process of the religious interventionism during previous centuries, there would be around, I think, 40 million of Serbs. That's my personal opinion, and I think that I will try to defend my personal opinion in the moment. In 16th century, Serbs started to migrate to west from Montenegro, Herzegovina. It's the southern borders of the Serbian people. And also the population of all Serbia started to migrate to the west and to the east. To the west, the border of the Serbian people from the 16th century was Bela Krajina in Slovenia. Also parts of border between Croatia and Slovenia, mainly in one village called Žumberak. If you heard of John Malkovich, American actor, he is originally from Žumberak. Although his name and surname are Serbian, it's Jovan Malkovich, he actually is not a Serb, he is a Croat. Because during the centuries, the population of Žumberak and the area of that part of Croatia, but as well most part of Slavonia, it's now Eastern Croatia, and also Dalmatia, they switched their identity after they switched their religion. That's the main point. My colleague Nikola Žutić, who is a scientific advisor at the Institute for Contemporary History in Belgrade, concluded in his book about the Roman Catholics in Croatia that possibly around 75% of them are originally Serbs and not Croats. Their ancestors were originally Orthodox Christians. There are a lot of records and archival documentation about the proselytism of the Roman Catholic Church, which actually is religious interventionism, and how they shaped new identity among the Serbian population. The process started in the 16th century and never stopped, and even now, in this moment, it is happening. As my point of the lecture is from 1991 to 2015, I will continue with that period of time, but just with a small remark about the Second World War and the independent state of Croatia. The program of that Nazi state, of the independent state of Croatia, was 33% or 1/3 of the population, of the Serbian population of Croatia, to expel, 1/3 to convert to Roman Catholicism, and 1/3 to kill. It was the official program of the independent state of Croatia, and it was the machinery, the industry of the death during the Second World War in the independent state of Croatia. Many people were forced to convert their religion, and from Orthodox Christianity, to whom they originally belonged, to accept the Roman Catholicism. It is calculated, 200,000 people that happened to be converted in that period of time. Most of them went back to the Orthodox Christianity after the Second World War. However, it was a communist state, and the religion was not anymore in that communist state important as it was before. When everybody thought that this is the industry of death of the Roman Catholic Church in Croatia, of the independent state of Croatia, with the help of the Roman Catholic Church in Croatia, will finally stop the proselytism and conversion of Orthodox Christian Serbs in Croatia, Slavonia, and Dalmatia. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. Communists successfully pushed the Serbian Orthodox Church on the margins of the Yugoslav society. However, it was not the same with the Roman Catholic Church. Although they tried, But it was impossible to happen also in the same way, because the Roman Catholic Church in socialist Yugoslavia got a huge support, not just from Vatican. They got the support as well from the Western world. And as you all know, most of you are the students of the diplomatic relations. Yugoslavia from the 1952 was integrated with the Western society economically. And in 1954, there was even a military agreement between Yugoslavia, Greece, and Turkey, which made Yugoslavia almost informal part of NATO. And CIA concluded in 1971 that Yugoslavia is a culturally part of the Western world. And it was. There was a very huge gathering of the Croat nationalists at the beginning of the 70s. It's called MASPOK, to integrate Croats and to separate Croatia from other parts of Yugoslavia into new independent socialist Croatia. It didn't happen because Communist Party of Yugoslavia sacked the leaders of the MASPOK, and they were unable to establish the new Croatian state under the influence of the communist leaders of the Croatia. But what happened then? A very interesting process happened then. There were very huge gatherings on a few 100,000 Croats during the MASPOK. Then after the MASPOK was sacked and the end abolished, a Roman Catholic Church decided to trace the root of Croatian secessionism, separatism, in the same way, but just to give the new ideology, to group also and to make gatherings of hundreds of thousands of Croats on Yugoslav soil, as MASPOK did. And it started to happen also at the beginning of the 70s in several parts of Croatia and Bosnia and Herzegovina. But it also happened in other parts of Yugoslavia. It happened, for example, in Montenegro in 1977. And when I was a state official of the Republic of Serbia, twice government official of the Ministry of Religion, I was very lucky to see the archival documentation first. And it was the archival documentation about the Secret Service of Yugoslavia, which listened Croatian cardinals, Croatian bishops, and then wrote it down to the paper what they listened. In one gathering in 1977, in Kotor and Montenegro, actually two gatherings, one Croatian cardinal called Sheper, who was actually in charge for foreign affairs of Vatican, came to Montenegro. There were a lot of priests of the Roman Catholic Church from Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Montenegro, and he told them, and he concluded, that the Orthodox Christianity is dying in Croatia, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and in Montenegro. And this is the right time in 1977 to, I quote, Roman Catholic Church should work to make the schismatics, as he said, schismatics as Orthodox Christians, and to invite them back into the church. The church is actually a Roman Catholic Church because they consider us, Orthodox Christians, as schismatics. So it was just 3 decades after the industry of death in Jasenovac. So we see that even after such disturbance, such turbulence which happened in the Second World War, the same people, not just the same people, but there is still the same root of religious interventionism with just the aim and the goal to convert the Serbian Orthodox Christians into the Roman Catholic faith. And in Croatian diaspora, very important. They published the books, republished the books, reprinted them, published the books from the Second World War about the Croatian Orthodox Church. Because in 1942, the leader of the independent state of Croatia, Ante Pavelić, concluded that not all Serbs can be converted to Roman Catholicism, that some Croats can have their own Orthodox religion. So he invented, with some Montenegrin separatists, the Croatian Orthodox Church on the soil of independent state of Croatia. Unfortunately now, in this moment, in Croatia, first time in history, after last census in 2011, we have 17,000 of Orthodox Croats. 17,000. There are 200,000 Serbs. So 17,000 is a lot. They were sometimes Serbs, Orthodox Serbs, but they are very afraid to express the Serbian Orthodox faith, so they decided to make their life easier and to express themselves as Orthodox Croats. After Croatian state, now in so-called democratic times, registered Serbian Orthodox Church, Bulgarian Orthodox Church, Macedonian Orthodox Church, and even so-called Montenegrin Orthodox Church. And last three churches have only a few believers according to census. There is no explanation for the believers of so-called Croatian Orthodox Church. There is no possibility to explain that the Croatian Orthodox Church, so-called, cannot be registered as new church within the Croatia. So we see now the same writings are ending and not even ending. It is still pending. It is still in work. That the aim to convert almost all Serbian Orthodox population in Croatia, Slavonia and Dalmatia, is now going to an end. Because the Serbs are expelled from Croatia in 1995. There are only 200,000 Serbs in Croatia, most of them just at the border with Serbia, in Vukovar and neighboring areas. They also will migrate with the time. So Serbian Orthodox churches, we can conclude, in some 5 decades, will be just museums, completely closed, like Serbian churches in Hungary, for example. There are only 2,000 Serbs in Hungary. There were many Serbs before the First World War in Hungary, but the population was switched between Yugoslavia and Hungary after the First World War, so Serbian population of Hungary moved to Serbia, and some Hungarian population from Yugoslavia moved to Hungary. So we see that the aim of the religious interventionism in Croatia of Austro-Hungarian Empire, Roman Catholic Church, and nowadays in Croatia, is going to complete and finally end the presence of the Orthodox Christian Church in Croatia. The aim was that the same should happen in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but it didn't, because the population of the Orthodox Christian Serbs was much bigger, much compact, and stronger. And the population of Roman Catholics, but as well the Muslim population, was heavy, but not that strong as it was, for example, the population of the Roman Catholics in Croatia. But in spite of that, never mind. In 2005, it is very interesting that the Roman Catholic Church in Bosnia and Herzegovina presented one document with the support of the Pope Benedict XVI, and they asked Bosnia and Herzegovina to be reshaped, internally reshaped, borders of the Bosnia and Herzegovina, and they asked for the abolition of the Bosnian Serb state Republika Srpska. It was their official document. So they simply are continuing to do that. However, they got even no support of the Croat parties in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Because in 2007, former American ambassador from Vatican, Thomas Patrick Milady, came to the space of former Yugoslavia. I was at that one meeting, and I organized, frankly, that meeting with Serbian bishops and him. He asked for that meeting, and he asked for 3 favors. One favor was the Serbs and Croats to start to be allies in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and to together to be a bulwark against the domination of the Muslim population in Bosnia and Herzegovina. The second favor was that he asked for one joint, unified space in Montenegro, so-called church, for Orthodox Christians and Roman Catholics, and 3 very important things of the Orthodox Christianity to be placed and to be worshipped also with the Roman Catholics in one space and to be joined. Our bishops, of course, rejected his proposal, and it didn't happen, but he asked. And third, which actually was not a favor, but it was some kind of a stand of the American government at that moment. So there is no any Serbian question in Macedonia. No Serbian church in Macedonia. No any Serbian ethnic question. There are just 2 questions in Macedonia. One question is Albanian and one question is Macedonian. 2 days after the meeting with us, he went to the president of the Republic of Srpska, Milorad Dodik, and after that, Milorad Dodik started to be a friend and started to work on the same goal with the Croat leader Čović in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So we can say that Milady's mission in Bosnia and Herzegovina was successful. We have the same writings of the Roman Catholic interventionism in Montenegro. Montenegro is a historical Serbian ethnic territory. Montenegro is ethnically absolutely the same as Serbia and Republic of Srpska. The Orthodox Christian population of Montenegro is a Serbian. I'm not telling this because I am a Serb, or I am a Serb from Serbia. Originally, I am a few hundreds years ago. Originally, my family is from Montenegro. But the main point is that the Montenegro was shaped as a Serbian country during the theocratic Montenegro princedom and kingdom of Montenegro, not by Serbian Serbs, but by Montenegrins. They shaped their country as a Serbian. They shaped their country, and they made the foundation of the country according to Kosovo and according to the memory of Kosovo. And according to census in 1909, in Principality of Montenegro, there were 95% were Serbs and 5% others, and others were Albanians. So they were all Serbs, and Montenegro was a Serbian state. But interestingly, there was a plan from 19th century of one Croat bishop Strossmayer. He was a pro-Yugoslav, officially, but unofficially he was not. He concluded that Montenegro can be a stepping stone to the Serbian lands, for conversion of the Serbian lands. He concluded that. And there was a great victory of the Montenegrin army, and they widened their state a lot in 19th century. And Prince Nikola, later King Nikola, was very not just proud. He considered himself a new emperor Dusan of Serbs. He considered that he would be a new emperor of Serbs. And this is why he made a concordat with the Vatican. He made it in 1882 because he considered that he will easily make influence on the Roman Catholics on the Adriatic coast, and that even Roman Catholics in that area can also be Serbs. And it happened, but it was in a very short period of time, because after the Concordat, he also agreed that a monastery of the Roman Catholic Church should be built in the capital of Montenegro, Cetinje. It was late 19th century, in the same time when Austro-Hungarian Empire ruled Bosnia and Herzegovina, and the governor of the occupation forces was Benjamin Kalaj, a diplomat from Hungary, known, according to his program, to make a new Bosniak nation and to force the Serbs of Bosnia and Herzegovina to express themselves not as Serbs but Bosniaks. And one Russian prince, Galizin, was in Montenegro in the late 19th century, and he told Prince Nikola, if you allow the Roman Catholic monastery to be built here, they all will work for the Kalaj administration in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and the conversion of Montenegro into new identity will start from Cetinje, from the monastery. Prince Nikola didn't believe, because he considered himself a great warrior and great victor. But it happened, unfortunately. In Cetinje, where 100% the population were Serbs until 1947, now there is only 5% of the Serbian population. Complete devastation. Cetinje was, together with Belgrade, also a capital of the Serbian people. However, now it is not. The new Montenegrin identity was shaped within the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, Socialist Yugoslavia, but Montenegrins were considered the different Serbs than other Serbs. It was the party's politics that they should not be completely removed from the Serbian population, but considered different Serbs from other Serbs. It was official. In the paper of Borba, it's the Communist Party paper, it was official and published on 1st of May in 1945. But during the breakup of Yugoslavia, unfortunately, the same forces who worked on conversion and expulsion of the Orthodox population from Croatia started to work even in Montenegro. And what is very important is that they concluded that Montenegrins cannot be immediately forced to be converted into Roman Catholic faith. And even Montenegrin separatists who concluded that Montenegro should go away from Serbia also concluded that the Montenegrins are just declaratively Orthodox Christians, that actually they should be Roman Catholics, but their discipline is very low, and that discipline, which is very low, is not allowing them to be Roman Catholics. But anyway, when they decide to establish a so-called Montenegrin Orthodox Church, they concluded that they should write a letter to a pope and to inform him that the Montenegrin Orthodox Church is starting to exist against the historical Serbian Orthodox Church in Montenegro. And unfortunately, in 2006, the Montenegro separated from Serbia. We are now, unfortunately, 2 states, and Serbia is now a very small state at the border of Europe. Together, Serbia and Montenegro, and together with all Yugoslav states, Yugoslavia was a very important country, played a global role in the world politics as a socialist Yugoslavia. Now we are all very small countries at the border of Europe. It is a shame, very pity. But after and just before the process of the shaping of new Montenegrin identity, which is not anymore the Montenegrins are different Serbs than other Serbs, they started to do a very interesting thing. And the very interesting thing that they started to shape the identity according to the politics of the Montenegrin collaborators during the Second World War, called Montenegrin Ustašas, that Montenegrins originally are not Serbs, but they are so-called Red Croats, or Diocletians. And Diocletians and Red Croats are just the synonyms. It is the same, completely the same. Just read the Croat sources, it is completely the same. And it is just, they're just hiding. They're just hiding. Unfortunately, and underline, they're just hiding the real intention. And the real intention is that Montenegrins should not be Montenegrins anymore. And it is going to completely new identity in Montenegro, which does not have any historical connections anymore with the old Montenegrin identity from the princedom and kingdom of Montenegro, and even before from the theocratic Montenegro. And the fourth spot in the space of Yugoslavia, and I will have to hurry, is Kosovo and Metohija. It is very interesting situation there. After the expulsion of Serbs in 1999 and after the NATO aggression against Serbia in 1999, is that there is a very smart and clever, frankly, I don't think it is decent, but it is clever from the Roman Catholic Church, which is working on the soil of Kosovo and Metohija. They consider Albanians as some kind of terra missionaris, even in Albania, also as well, and Kosovo especially. And they successfully happened with conversion of very important Albanian figures from Muslim faith, declaratively, nominally they were Muslims, but never practiced, to Roman Catholicism. One of them is the president of so-called Republic of Kosovo, Ibrahim Rugova, who converted himself to Roman Catholicism at the night of his death. From that purpose, the cardinal from Milano, Angelo Scola, came to Pristina, and Rugova tried to knee in front of him, but he was very ill. It was not possible. But he kissed his cardinal ring, and he said, I am now giving my soul to Pope John Paul II, to Pope Benedict XVI, and to Mother Teresa. And obviously, he was baptized in that moment as a Roman Catholic. One Albanian Roman Catholic priest called Don Ljuš Đerđi was present at the moment, and he said, we didn't want to interrupt and to disturb the Albanian population, and we allowed the Muslim ceremony to be served at his grave. But now, finally, at the end, they claimed and they publicly published that at the end, at the night of his death, he was converted to Roman Catholicism. The same is with the terrorist leader of the Albanians. It's Ramush Haradinaj. Somebody of you possibly heard about him. He also said that his family was always nominally, declaratively Muslim, but that they were always Roman Catholics. It is even the same in Montenegro, because many Montenegrin separatists are claiming that their families were sometime Roman Catholics, that they were not originally Orthodox Christians, which is, I have to say, rubbish. It is not true, and it is complete invention. Now, somebody would say that 75% of Croats are originally Serbs and were Orthodox. Their ancestors, not there. It is also said by one Bosniak Muslim who is pro-Yugoslav orientation that 90% of Bosniaks who are Muslims are also Serbs originally, and I have to say 100% of Montenegrins are originally Serbs. Now we can count finally, if we count the population of Yugoslavia, originally Serbs, who are not Serbs anymore, and to count them, and to also count the population which lives outside of Yugoslav space in Australia and America, New Zealand, Canada, Latin America even, Western Europe, and Turkey. 5 million of people in Turkey, 5 million Muslims in Turkey are originally Yugoslavs. 5 million. Very heavy number, very huge number. They are integrated into Turks, into Turkish population. And if you recall a Turkish basketball national team 5 or 10 years ago, with Turkcan, with Turkoglu, with Asim Pars, and some other, they were all from Yugoslavia. All were speaking Serbian language as a native language. Some of them were just came from Yugoslavia before the war. Some of their mothers and grandfathers came to Turkey, but they all speak the Serbian language. And of course, the people in the Balkans are very tall. They're, after the Dutch people, the peoples in the Balkans are the tallest people in Europe. And if you see other Turks who are not actually of the Yugoslav origin, they are much smaller, much smaller. So it would be very, it is very interesting that it would be easily to conclude that most of the Turkish national team from the basketball players were or genetically are coming from the Balkans. So simply, it was very easy to conclude. Thus, so this is the western border of the Serbian population. But also there is an eastern border of the Serbian population. And unfortunately, the religious interventionism is happening also there, even there. For example, in northeastern Serbia, there is now a politics of our friends, historical friends of the Republic of Romania, to make a new identity in the Timok Krajina, and Krajina, when you hear the name Krajina, you can also recall the Ukraine. It's actually Krajina, it's the borderland. The translation in English is borderland. So Krajina in Timok Krajina in northeastern Serbia is the borderland between the ethnic Serbs and Romanians. But there is a population of around 300,000 people who were originally speaking a language close to Romanian, but not considered, never ever, them as Romanians. But they consider themselves culturally Serbs, and they consider themselves ethnically Serbs. But now Romania is working with the religious interventionism by the state and by the Romanian Orthodox Church on the reshaping of the identity of the Vlah population, of the population of the northeastern Serbia, reshaping the identity from the Serbian identity to a Romanian identity, with a very small success. Because the Romanian Orthodox Church and the Romanian state are not that, kako se kaže lukav? Kako? cunning. Not that cunning as the Vatican and the policy of the Roman Catholic Church and the countries, Roman Catholic countries, which ruled over the Serbian population in Austrian-Hungarian Empire or later on. So Romanians are unsuccessful. There are only around 2,000 Romanians in Timok Krajina and around 40,000 Vlachs and around 260,000 Serbs. So no success. And there is also a space of Dimitrovgrad and Bosilegrad at the Serbian border with Bulgaria. Originally the territories were Bulgarian, but after Bulgaria lost the First World War and Serbia won, the territories joined Serbia. And in Dimitrovgrad and in Bosilegrad, the Bulgarians are also working on the reshaping of the identity. But not reshaping, I made a mistake, because those people mostly consider themselves Bulgarians. But they're trying to make them more separatist than they ever were. Because in Yugoslavia, you know, when Yugoslavia was much stronger than Bulgaria, much stronger, the people of Bosilegrad and Dimitrovgrad were very happy to live in Yugoslavia, to travel with Yugoslav passports without any visa everywhere they want. Now it's a different situation. Not in Dimitrovgrad as it is in Bosilegrad, but the parts of, during the previous period of time, the parts of Bulgarian church were very active in the shaping of the separatist identity of Bulgarians. But why that space of Bosilegrad is very important to Serbia? Because between Albanian ethnic territories in Serbia, Preševo and Bujanovac, and Bosilegrad, which is Bulgarian ethnic territory within the Serbia, there is only 20 kilometers of the Serbian ethnic territories. And 20 kilometers is actually a link between Serbia and Macedonia. And Macedonians are culturally Yugoslavs, as Serbs are culturally Yugoslavs. Although Macedonians speak the language which is much similar to Bulgarian, they culturally consider themselves Yugoslavs and closely connected to Serbs. In Macedonia, there is only 8% of people who consider Bulgarians the closest nation, and 80% of population who consider Serbs as the closest population of Macedonia. It's a very important thing. So the link between those 20 kilometers are linked not just to Serbia, to Macedonia, but just from Serbia to Greece. And if Albanians and Bulgarians in some period of time, merge each other at the territory of those 20 kilometers, or connection and link will be disconnected between Serbs, Macedonians, and Greeks. See how, for example, how religious interventionism is just part of the geostrategy of some countries, but not Bulgarians and Albanians and Romanians. They're all part of NATO, and Kosovo is occupied territory. So they are not working the same. They are working together with Western forces, especially the United States of America, on the same goal and the same aim to make the Serbs weaker. Why to make the Serbs weaker? Because, as I said, the Serbs were the strongest population in Yugoslavia. What is very important, imagine this, in 1917, there was no more Russia, no more Orthodox Empire. Ceased to exist completely. New state, Soviet Union. In the same time, almost in the same time, the Greeks were defeated against the Turks from 1919 to 1922 in Mikrasia, in Asia Minor. 1.5 million Greeks were transferred to Greece. Constantinople also, it was in that moment, everybody knows that the Constantinople, the root of the Orthodox Christianity, will not be a Greek. Almost, I will not conclude, but possibly never ever. But Yugoslavia was established. In that moment, 16 million people. Yugoslavia was the strongest Orthodox country in the world. No Russian Empire, Greek Empire, new Greek Empire was not possible anymore, and Yugoslavia started to play the role of the Orthodox, possible new Orthodox Empire. This is why Yugoslavia was so important country, very important country. Half of population Orthodox Christians, half of population others. And this is why Yugoslavia was also devastated and razed to the ground from the map of the modern Europe. And it was also a punishment to the Serbian people. Because after the First World War, 4 empires ceased to exist. Austria-Hungary, German Empire, Turkish Empire, and Russian Empire. The Serbian border from Šabac in Serbia was transferred within several weeks to Alps with the power of the Serbian army and Serbian weapons. Serbian army in 1919 was just 200 kilometers from Vienna. General Krsto Smiljanić was just 200 kilometers from Vienna. We devastated them, and they deserved, because they devastated our country. But at the end, anyway, in 1991, finally, Germany, Austria, according to American ambassador in Vatican, in his memoirs he published a very important thing, very important information, that Vatican, it was a Cardinal Turan from France, who was in charge for the foreign affairs of the Vatican. He called him at the meeting in 1991. At the meeting were ambassadors in Vatican of Austria, Germany, Belgium, France, and Great Britain. And he concluded, American ambassador, he went to the meeting with the information that the United States of America supports Yugoslavia and that will not allow the separation of Croatia and Slovenia. But Milady said in his memoirs, when I entered the meeting, I learned that Great Britain, France, Germany, Italy, Austria, and Belgium, already together with Vatican, they all agreed that Yugoslavia is no more, that they will accept the secession of Croatia and Slovenia. And Milady said that he didn't know what to do. He was a Roman Catholic, devoted Roman Catholic Christian, but he had to support the politics of his country. He informed his country. Americans received the information, and after they received information that Yugoslavia is near to an end, that the process is going to an end, that there is no help for the Yugoslav state, it would be destroyed. Americans then started to reshape their policy, to change the policy, and from the supporters of Yugoslavia to start to be the carriers of the politics against the Yugoslav state and against the Serbian nation and the Serbian population. The Serbian nation, as Serbs were always considered as, of course, the Serbs did it. The Serbs were establishers, founders of Yugoslavia, and this is why America changed its policy and made it from pro-Serb to anti-Serb, and the anti-Serb politics actually never ended, because after the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina and after the bombing of the Bosnian Serbs and Krajina Serbs in 1994 and 1995, there was a NATO intervention in 1999 against Serbia. In 2000, after the cup in Belgrade, everybody in Serbia, almost everybody considered that Americans will be our allies again, and so on and so on, but it didn't happen. In 2006, Montenegro separated, and 2008 it was also unilaterally separation of Kosovo and Metohija, also with the support of the United States of America. So it is actually not important at all who rules Serbia, whether it is Milošević, or it is Koštunica, or it is Tadić. The aim is always the same. Smaller Serbia. And the process is still going on, I think. So I think that it's my personal opinion. I'm telling you as a professional historian, and also I'm telling you as a former state official of the Republic of Serbia and Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, both as a ministry official, more that there is a most decent solution, I think, for the Balkan peoples, Orthodox Christians, is to work on the integration of Serbia, Republic of Srpska in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, and Macedonia into one entity. I don't know how this entity would be shaped, whether it would be a union, confederation, or federation. It depends on communication and negotiation between those four republics: Serbia, Republic of Srpska, Montenegro, and Macedonia. Because only with that entity, which is predominantly Orthodox Christian, all four republics are Orthodox Christian, we can have a decent entity and not to be anymore the small state at the border of Europe. This is my personal opinion. And now this is also some kind of religious politics, because we saw, unfortunately, that multi-civilizational Yugoslavia was not possible. The country which consisted of the Orthodox Christians, Roman Catholics, and Muslims was not possible, even if we are talking the same language. Even. And although Bulgarians and Macedonians are talking the same language, their union is also not possible. And not the language is the main factor which joins the people and the population. It is actually a civilization. It is not, first and foremost, my opinion. It is the opinion of the great American ideologist Samuel Huntington. He published this in his book, The Clash of Civilizations. And he said, and he concluded, although the Orthodox civilization and although the Western civilization are the most closest civilizations, there are two civilizations, and they will continue to clash. They will not merge, definitely. When I was young, it was in Yugoslavia, socialist Yugoslavia, in that period of time. And everybody thought in Yugoslavia that it is possible. And we looked at the West as a window of freedom. Now, as a much older person, with a daughter who is of 21 years of age, I conclude completely different. We can live with Western civilization, Orthodox civilization, just as a neighbor, but we cannot integrate. It is impossible. So that is for me, and I expect your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rakovich, for a very informative lecture. Now, if anybody wants, you can ask questions, but please ask questions in English. Any questions? Yes.
Hi, hello. Thank you for your lecture, Mr. Rakovich. I would like to ask you a question. I will mention I am actually, as you began your lecture with one of those Serbian students that went to America. However, I would say that culturally I absolutely did not integrate. In fact, as time goes on, I am starting to see the views of East as more closer to me. And in fact, seeing the Western civilization actually pushed me away from it a lot. In fact, that's why in my third year of studying I came to Moscow. So I wanted to ask you, don't you believe that it is rather economic tool, not really cultural or religious ones, that is pushing the civilization towards the West? For example, it is for example, what happened to the Bosnians who are Muslim. Many of them were actually Serbs, of course, who under extremely heavy taxes of the Ottoman Empire, they needed to convert to the Ottoman Empire. I believe that in Ukraine today we see a stronger Catholic presence of the Catholic religion, mostly because they're doing their best to present themselves closer to West so they can be integrated into European Union for, again, a stronger economy. And the same things happens to the people in the US. I mean, many of them, they come from all parts of the world, and in the end they don't really stick with their religions, rather to be as quickly as possible integrated into a very successful American economic system. That is what drives them to quickly convert culturally.
It is not just that, because the economic system works very fine in China as well, and Singapore, and there are giants in the Far East now. In Indonesia is a giant. But have you ever heard that somebody is going to Indonesia to work? Or to China? Yeah, Malaysia as well. And India also. India is not that, it's not a giant, but China is a giant. So yes, it is much quicker for somebody who goes to United States or Canada or Anglophone countries to see the American or Western dream is happening. But at the end, we are not just beings who are thinking just economically. We all have our another dreams. It's our fate, our mountains, our villages, our seas, our churches, and our graves. Maybe Serbs, and not maybe, but I'm certain that Serbs would be much richer in the United States of America. But what is the price? The price is that the grandchildren will not be a Serb. I do not want to see my grandchild is not a Serb, an Orthodox Christian. This is my lecture to you, Tamara, as well. So that's unfortunately, the aims of the multicultural society were broken up during the last years. And even Angela Merkel concluded that in Germany. It was her conclusion, not mine. That multicultural Germany is going to an end. France also, multicultural France is going to an end. Multicultural Great Britain is going to an end. Have you visited Great Britain?
Never.
Yeah. I visited it 5 times. And it is very interesting that whenever I visited Great Britain, it was always very easy to obtain UK visa during one night for us, for Serbs. Much easier than to obtain the EU visa when we needed EU visas. Much easier. Now we don't need EU visas anymore. but it is very heavy to get British visa because the multi-ethnic society of Britain is also going to an end. The multi-ethnic societies are unsuccessful, I have to say. And we will see during the next decades, in this century, how America will also handle with its own multi-ethnic society. How it is going to handle with the situation when you have, for example, a few years ago, it was a Golden Cup final. It is North American football final between the United States and Mexico in Pasadena, in California. 100,000 people gathered at the stadium. 96,000 supporters of Mexico and 4,000 supporters of the United States on the American soil. How they will going to handle population of Mexico, who still considers it the stolen land of Aztlan, the stolen land. Americans stole, they annexed those lands from Mexicans. So this is not the end. And every empire has its own end. And America will have its own end. That's my opinion. And it will have.
Once again, thank you for the lecture. And I have a really simple question. You said that multicultural countries are going to an end. And so what do you think about Russia and its future? Because we are a multicultural country.
Not.
And also for religions, there are lots of religions inside Russia, so that's why I asked.
Yeah. Russia also will have to learn to handle the multi-ethnicity of its country, of the country. However, it is not the same as America. Because the first and foremost, unlike America, Russia is the Orthodox Christian country. And it is. And the ideology of Russia, although it may not be that obvious, but it is actually obvious, is Orthodox Christianity. Yeah. It is a pattern. It is even now a political program of the, and if you can remember the Putin's visit to the Mount Athos a few months ago, it was published in the Russian newspaper that the Putin sat on the seat of the Byzantine Empire. It is not true, because there is no seat of Byzantine Empire in the Mount Athos. It is in Constantinople. But yeah, it is very important. It was important to President Putin, who I admire. It was important. It was important to present him as a new Orthodox emperor, so that he is continuing the policy of Byzantine emperors. This is why I consider the politics of Russia and the ideology of Russia as first and foremost the Orthodox Christian. How Russians will handle the situation? The situation actually can be very shaky on the southern borders, right? In the Caucasus Mountains and yeah. But in other parts of Russia, I don't believe. And the country who has a strong ideology, as Russia has its own ideology, country which I'm coming from, Serbia, does not have any ideology, unfortunately, anymore. It's not Orthodox Christianity. It's not Serbian ethnic program. It's nothing. It's just we have to go to EU. It's rubbish. I'm strongly opposing EU, and of course NATO. But Russia has its own ideology and political program and its own strong economic system, and that makes the country very strong. And now, of course, we cannot ignore the Russian interventionism, military interventionism. It is in Syria and elsewhere. We cannot ignore that. And I hope that President Putin and and the people who will come after President Putin will continue to have some smart politics like he has, for example, Putin has towards Kadyrov. He has some, I don't know whether we would agree, but he has smart politics, yeah, towards Kadyrov. And yeah, it was successful. It was successful. And it is very important. I don't want to forget. Archbishop of Albania published a book under the title of Islam, the title of Islam. And he concluded that Orthodox Christians and Muslims can live easily in peace, much easier in peace than Orthodox Christians and Roman Catholics. It was his conclusion. It's very interesting, but it was his conclusion. So I frankly, I cannot give you a precise answer. It is a very heavy question you asked. Nobody knows what would happen, you know. And if somebody would say to Russian emperor in 1916 that there will be no Russia anymore in 1917, nobody would believe. He wouldn't believe. So history sometimes is going to, in some directions, nobody would expect it. I can see that it's obvious that Russia, China, India, as with Brazil and South Africa, can be some kind of the opposition against the world order imposed by the United States and NATO. And Russia with allies also will be much stronger with such allies. And Russia needs allies. And Russia also needs allies within the Muslim world. And Russia also needs an ally in Erdogan as well. Russia needs allies in the Muslim world as well. And I don't know, we talked before the lecture about whether there is somebody who switched the civilization. Actually, there is. It's South Africa. They completely switched the civilization after the fall of apartheid. From the Western civilization, they switched into African. So it is also possible to happen to switch to completely different civilization and make it the new path. I don't know whether I gave you an answer you wanted. Thank you.
Professor Rakovic, hvala vam puno for the interesting lecture. I want to ask you, what do you think, which will be the best solution for the future of Serbia? Will it be a model like it used to be in Yugoslavia, but I mean with religious as well, like Orthodox, Roman Catholics, and maybe Muslims? Or it will be a model that Serbia will have the high, let's say, administration of the whole area, of the whole ex-Yugoslavia area. Thank you.
Thank you. You must be from Greece. Where are you from Greece, actually? Thessaloniki. Are you originally from Mykrasia, or?
Yes.
I know, yeah. The area of Thessaloniki is mostly from Mykrasia originally.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Actually, the whole north of Greece.
Yeah.
Most of them.
Yeah. I think that we have to be a braver people in Serbia, and that we have to openly present our intentions. It is not possible in this moment with this government, I have to say. I don't work for the government anymore, so I'm speaking as a historian, as a scholar. They're not brave, because our goal is to go to the EU. And and everybody is talking about we are going to EU. Our intention is, I think, should be to unify with the Republic of Srpska, Montenegro, and Macedonia. When I speak Macedonia, it's the Republic of Skopje. this is our space, you know. Our 4 Slavic republics and our integrations, Serbian Republic of Srpska, it's a pan-Serb integration. Serbia, Republic of Srpska, and Montenegro would be some kind of Serbo-Montenegrin integration, because Montenegro was a historical sub-state, and with the Republic of Macedonia, with somebody of Fyrom or the Republic of Skopje, it would be a Yugoslav integration, but not anymore a Yugoslav integration in its old style. It should be just a Yugoslav republics, post-Yugoslav republics, but Orthodox Christian republics. As the civilization is very important, and Huntington concludes that the Greece is an anomaly of the Western civilization. It's his conclusion, and you don't belong to the Western civilization. Politically, you belong, but culturally, you don't. You don't. And when I was in Greece 1 month ago, one Greek baker said to me, "We hope that our big Russian brother will come and save us from the EU." It is this, you know that story, of course. It's the same in Serbia. We also hope that big Russian brother will come and save us. But it is very important for Russians to learn one important lesson. Iraq and Serbs were the first who opposed the new Western imperialism, and we paid a heavy price, both of us, and Iraq and the Serbs. Iraq was completely devastated. Yugoslavia also was devastated. Serbs were in knockdown, but we were not knocked out. Definitely, we are still standing. We are standing, and we are now in position to wait Russians. But Russians cannot expect from us to combat. It is not impossible. We combated too much. It is not impossible. It should be like in Crimea or in Donbass. But we cannot combat anymore against Americans. It is impossible. It would be a suicidal mission. So Russians have to know that even when Russia was on its knees, we were fighting Americans. Russia was on its knees, not just on its knees. Russia voted in the UN Security Council for sanctions against Yugoslavia and for bombing of the Republic of Srpska. It is a heavy shame on that Russian government. It didn't happen in 1999, but it happened in 1992 and 1994, unfortunately. So this is the lesson the Russians have to learn, that we are the first. And we are even braver than Russians. 7.5 million of Serbs are braver. I would like to see the situation that Russians are just numbering 7.5 million. See, 7.5 million of Serbs are combating NATO, entire NATO. Who else would do that? Nobody, I think. But we did it. So I think that I answered on your question that I think integrations of the Orthodox Christian republics of post-Yugoslav space.
Alexander, thank you for the lecture, and I have for you 2 questions. The first about your project of integration on the base of Orthodox Christianity. But we know that there are Muslim population in Kosovo, and the third part of the population of Macedonia is Islamic population. So you need count this factor of Muslim population. And the second question is about the religion politic of Djukanovic in Montenegro?
First question is that the Kosovo problem will going to continue. And when I said integration, even within integration, the Kosovo would have the same status as it has now. It is not integrated in the Serbian system. It is occupied territory. It will continue to be an occupied territory for a while. And historical process will show us what should be done in Kosovo and Metohija. We will never recognize it as an independent state. We will continue to recognize it as a part of the Serbian state. But the situation there is very complex. It is imposed from the Western powers, and we will continue to see, to think what we should be done what we should do in Kosovo and Metohija. Also, when I say integration with Macedonia, I think that Macedonians will have to solve their own problem with Albanians. They would know the best how to solve the problem. And it is not an easy task for them because, as you know, the last census in Macedonia was cancelled during the process of census. It was cancelled after the order of the American ambassador that there should be at least 40% of Albanians. Census is a very important process of the state, and it cannot be traced by the decision of American ambassador and his opinion that there has to be at least 40% of Albanians. Actually, there are around 25% of them, not even third population. 25% actually. This is how Macedonians are counting. And the population is of Albanians in Macedonia is not growing up. It is going down. Because most of them are leaving to Switzerland, Germany, and Austria. Albanians, from some reasons, very like countries of German-speaking population. Very like. I don't know why. Like Serbs very like Anglophone population, but Albanians, German-speaking population. I don't know why. If you see the Swiss football team, half of them are Albanians from Kosovo. And this is why Macedonians are also trying to see what the future will give to them. Whether the Albanian population is still going to go down. There will be less and less Albanians. And Macedonia has a policy of a third child. Third child is that the mother who gives a birth to a third child is starting to be a state employee. She does not have to work anymore. She is receiving a salary of a state employee. So they think that the measures of the Macedonian state of demographic measures will help them to make Macedonian population bigger and the Albanian population smaller. Because Albanian population is not actually committing to the politics of Macedonian state of a third child, but rather they are going to live to Switzerland, Austria, or Germany. But if they want to live there, it's their personal opinion, and they are free to live in Switzerland, Austria, and Germany. But they cannot be a part of the census in Macedonia. Every person who lives 1 year out of the native country cannot be part of the census. So if Albanian from Macedonia lives in Switzerland for 2 years, he cannot be counted in Macedonia anymore. He can be counted in Switzerland. So after the measures of Macedonian government are fulfilled, and we will see the fulfillment within next several years, we will see how Macedonian state would behave in the new situation, connected to the facts of the census who has to be taken in the future, because the first one was cancelled. Previous one was cancelled, but we expect to happen in, I think, 2000, within 5 years, I think that new census in Macedonia would take place, and after new census, we will possibly have completely new picture of the Macedonian society. About the Đukanović policy or church policy, Đukanović church policy is to expel the Serbian Orthodox Church from Montenegro. He openly said that they will, the Montenegrin independence will not be circled. It's his words, circled completely, with the Serbian Orthodox Church on the territory of Montenegro. This is why I think that if Montenegro enters NATO, NATO within next 6 months or a year, the situation can be very, very dangerous, because I think that Milo Đukanović knows that he cannot occupy the Serbian churches in Montenegro by himself. It is impossible, because even Montenegrin separatists mostly are still believers of the Serbian Orthodox Church. Not to mention the Serbs of Montenegro, who are 100% believers of the Serbian Orthodox Church. And I think that he is waiting the NATO troops as supporters of the Montenegrin separatist politics, and that he thinks that he will have much more space for his policy to expel Serbian Orthodox Church as a part of NATO. If somebody thinks that integration within the EU or NATO would make a state more democrat, it's not true. We see that Croatia now, in this moment, has a complete revival of Nazi ideology, like in Ukraine. Complete revival. So they're part of European Union, part of NATO, part of EU, European and Euro-Atlantic integration, but the Nazi ideology is in Croatia more alive than ever. So if somebody thinks that Euro-Atlantic integration of Montenegro will make the country more democratic, not. We don't know what we can expect in Montenegro after that, after the Montenegrin integration within the NATO. Situation can be in Montenegro, I think, in next year very dangerous. I'm quite convinced, and I'm certain, I know, that Serbs of Montenegro are ready to defend Serbian churches by force. So if he wants to attack, let him attack. But our skin is also very expensive.
Thank you. And the last two questions.
I wanted to ask you about, this summer there was a meeting of Orthodox patriarchs in one of the Greek islands, and Russian patriarch wasn't present there. So why was that? And maybe in the context you can just give a comment on the meeting with Pope and Patriarch Kirill. How do you see that? And is there any connection?
Meeting in February in Cuba was very important for the Orthodox Church, and it was one of the greatest global meetings of 2016. Russian religious policy is going to be very strong, and will be very stronger in future period. It was not just Cuba; it was also Putin's visit to Mount Athos. So the two very big events of this Russian religious policy were Cuba and Mount Athos. About Crete, Serbian Orthodox Church was present at the Council of Crete, but I know that Russians are sometimes talking to Serbs that the Serbs should not be present at the Council of Crete. But Russians have to learn one very important position of the Serbian people, as it was Yugoslavia before. Yugoslavia was a country which was east to the west and west to the east. And also Serbian Orthodox Church is in the same time Slavic Church, but in the same time Mediterranean Church. So we are now in sandwich between Russians and Greeks. And both of them are our brothers and sisters. I have to be correct. Both of them. And Serbian Orthodox Church was in Crete, but some Serbian bishops didn't want to sign some documents which were not acceptable to the Serbian Orthodox Church. So Serbian Orthodox Church considers the council in Crete as the Great Council, but not as an all-Orthodox council. And Serbian Orthodox Church has a stand that it would consider Great Council in Crete just as a first session of the ongoing all-Orthodox Council. So that's the position of the Serbian Orthodox Church. I admire both our great patriarchs in Constantinople and Moscow, but first and foremost, as a Serb Orthodox, I have to admire my own Serbian patriarch, Irine, and his decision was that our church should go to Crete, participate, open some questions, and to agree or not to agree with other Orthodox churches. Without our presence in Crete, ecumenical patriarch would not be present months ago in Jasenovac, in Croatia, at the field where it is symbolically connected to the death of 100,000 Serbs during the Second World War. He served the liturgy on that space. And what is very important about the Cuba meeting in February is that the Pope finally signed a document that he does not allow anymore the proselytism and conversion of Orthodox Christians to Roman Catholics. Now it is official. It is official. And it should be official even in Yugoslavia, but also in Ukraine. It should be official in Ukraine also, where situation is very dangerous in Ukraine. And I don't know how the Roman Catholic Church will handle with the situation of the population of the Greek Catholics, who are very radical and who are the carrier population of the Ukrainian identity separatism from Malorus identity, which was part of the Russian identity, wider Russian identity, now to completely different Ukrainian identity without any connection to Russians. And it is still going on, but I'm afraid that even Pope signed the document, which is very important. But we see in Croatia that Croats are now not converting anymore Serbs into Roman Catholics, but converting them to Orthodox Croats. And in Ukraine it is the same. It is not anymore conversion into Greek Catholics. It is now conversion into extreme Ukrainian identity. So we will see in the future what will happen. The signature of signature of Pope cannot be taken as granted, because there are other roads and other highways for the conversion of the native population into new identity, with support of the Roman Catholic Church, but not anymore in the most radical way, which was the conversion into Roman Catholicism and completely new faith, but it is now ethnic conversion. But at the end, the goal is the same. The goal is completely the same, and the goal is to steal away the original identity of the people and give them some new identity.
I have two questions. First is, what are the consequences of winning the election by Serbian candidate in Srebrenica, as we know that there is a worldwide spread myth of Serbian genocide on Muslims. And the second is, what are the consequences of quitting the Milo Đukanović, the post of the prime minister?
First, the Muslim candidate is he is not recognizing that he lost, which is absurd. You know, he lost the elections democratically. He was a weaker candidate, and Serb got the elections. But he now applied to the Constitutional Court to help him to question the Serbian victory in Srebrenica. I don't know what to expect, especially after the decision of Constitutional Court about the National Day of the Republic of Srpska. Because, in Constitutional Court there are 3 judges from the West, 2 judges of Bosnian ethnicity, 2 judges of Serbian ethnicity, and 2 judges of Croat ethnicity. And judges from the West, together with Bosniaks, have 5 votes. 2 Serbs and Croats 4 votes. And they're always overvoting them, So even if in Srebrenica, they might vote for new elections, for example, in Srebrenica. But I don't think that Dodik would accept. I don't think, and that they are playing with fire, and they are now even fastening the Serbian politics of the West is now going to make the Serbian policy of the separation from Bosnia faster than it would be before. About Milo Đukanović stepping down, nothing will happen. He would step down. His candidate would be a prime minister, but you have a state within the Balkans, which is mafia state, completely mafia state. And mafia state, together with NATO troops on its soil, together with support of European Union, together with support of the United States of America, is definitely a place which would be a very shaky ground in the future, with or without Milo Đukanović. And for example, my personal friend is Andrija Mandić. He is a leader of the opposition in Montenegro. And we are talking about the situation of Montenegro. Sometimes I was very rude to him, I have to say. Because I simply, as a Serb, didn't totally realize the situation in Montenegro when you have against yourself mafia, NATO, America, EU, and 200,000 Serbs, and 100,000 pro-Serb Montenegrins. So how can they handle the situation and with such powers led by mafia and the United States? So it is very interesting that you are students of diplomatic relations to, for example, compare with the American politics towards mafia in 1943, during the invasion of Italy, when they made an agreement. It's called Operation Underworld and Operation Husky with Lucky Luciano, who was in jail in New York City. And mafia helped invasion of Italy, of American forces. But Americans concluded that if they cannot liberate all Italy, and if in the central and northern Italy are in the power Italian fascists, not fascists, or Nazis, or even Italian communists, that they were established Sicily and southern Italy as an anti-state to other parts of Italy. So Montenegro and Kosovo are now anti-states to Serbia in the same way. We have the same writings, almost the same plan. Montenegro and Kosovo just function as an anti-state to Serbia. They're all that Serbia is not. And when we say the southern Italy, our Greek friend also knows it was sometimes Megalia Lada. There was no single Greek anymore there, right?
There is not, but a lot of people, because I've been there a couple of years ago, they say that our origins are completely Greek.
But they are Italians, and Roman,
yes,
and Roman Catholics and Greek Catholics.
Yes.
So this is how what I'm speaking about. How the Roman Catholics and Orthodox cannot live together. We have native Greek lands of southern Italy and Sicily. Archimedes was from Sicily. Not a single Greek continued to live in. They're all Italianized and Latinized, and all are Roman Catholics. The same is in Croatia with former Orthodox Christians, Bosnia, and Montenegro. The same is Eastern Ukraine, Western Ukraine. Western Ukraine. So in geographical positions, when we are we are touching each other's, Roman Catholics and Orthodox, it looks like that we are but touching politically. We don't have, kako se kaže vešti, Mihajlo? Sad sam izgubio koncentraciju malo. They are more successful always. And we are losing population. Greeks are losing population, Serbs are losing population, and Russians are losing population. So it looks like that if we don't make a border strong between us, we will lose. And you have also to have in mind, for example, it's the clear example why I quoted Archbishop of Albania, who is actually a Greek, that Orthodox and Muslims can sometimes live easier than Roman Catholics. Not a single Greek came from the southern Italy and Sicily back to Greece, but 1.5 million Greeks came from Micrasia.
But they forced to.
Yeah, but they.
Nobody.
But they were Greeks.
Okay,
but they were. They preserved their identity, Greek identity,
Yes.
in Turkey, but they didn't in Italy. It's important. So we can live with Muslims much easier than with Roman Catholics. That's it. Unfortunately. So.
A very short commentary, just as you maybe remember from the history. Months ago, before Constantinople became Ottoman Empire, before the last emperor fall, the people of Constantinople said that it is better to have here the Muslims' hat than the Pope's hat.
It is better to have a Turkish turban than
Catholics' office.
Yes. Yes. So that's it. And my friend who was my boss, who is now my friend, and he was a minister of religion of Serbia, talked to bishop in what is the English? Corfu, island of Corfu, which was under Italians, and he said it is always better for Orthodox to live with Muslims than to Roman Catholics. Yeah, that is.
Thank you, Mr. Rakovic. I want to say something in conclusion. Thank you, and thank all our guests for your attention to the activities of our Balkan Club. It is a great honor for all of us that experts and scientists of such level attend our meetings, our meetings. We hope that we'll continue our cooperation in future. So thank you for your lecture.
Thank you.